All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a nice weekend. Let's just see what's going on here in the markets. You know what? I'm canceling my Wall Street Journal subscription. It's getting to become pretty much of a rag, if you ask me. But anyway, headline story: Scale of Chinese spying overwhelms Western governments. Wow. How about that? So, one of the things I do to follow the Chinese markets is I look at this FXI. This is the iShares China Large Cap ETF. And this is an ETF that's fairly easy to trade because it's got pretty well defined price levels. And as we can see, we get resistance at the level that was resistance before. We tend to be resistance at former peaks. You have people who sell, and when the price eventually goes higher, they say, I made a mistake. I'm going to buy my shares back if I can, but I'm not going to pay more than I sold them at. So they place their buy orders at the selling price, which was the former peak. So you can tend to get support at former peaks if there's enough of these remorseful sellers placing buy orders. So this thing has been in a pretty big free fall. This is Chinese large cap stocks. Yeah, down about 12% in just 2 or 3 days. If it gets down to around 29.50, that's where I'm going to get interested for a rebound. All right, let's go see. Oh, I don't know. Let's just go look at the U.S. markets, although they seem pretty quiet so far. So here's the S&P 500 moving up nice and slow. This is composed of 11 sectors, right? And typically it's technology, healthcare, and financials are the three that have the most influence because they're the biggest part of it. You can go take a look at the SPY fact sheet. The SPY is an ETF, and all ETFs have fact sheets, and you can see the holdings. And we can scroll down here and you could see that tech is 32%, financials are 13, healthcare is 11.5%, consumer discretionary is 9.8. Then you got these other guys. Energy is 3.5, which is small, but it affects the broader markets. These guys, utilities, real estate, materials, they don't really affect the broader markets, but we do look at them for ideas. So let's just run through these really quick. All right, here's our tech sector. Looks kind of good. Going to be up again this morning. Now, here's where I would be looking for a reversal in tech. This is XLK, the tech ETF. Notice how right around here it was a former peak. Well, like we just saw with the FXI, there may be resistance at a former peak, and you can see that here. We get up here, we get to the level that was a peak, and we get resistance. So if we get to up here around 237, 238, and now we're trading at 231, I'd be looking for a reversal. You have the people that bought right at the top have been underwater since, and they say, I want to get out. I made a mistake. A lot of these price levels are formed by remorse, either buyer's remorse or seller's remorse. It's really important to understand how important psychology is for the market as opposed to all the stuff they talk about on the news, like earnings. I was an institutional trader for 20 years, and I can tell you firsthand that the vast majority of the time, what's going on is really not driven by the news. It's driven just by short-term fundamentals or I should say technicals. So for example, you got remorseful buyers up here, right? Around 237. That means if we get to 237, you're going to have remorseful buyers trying to sell. And if there's enough of them, it's going to turn the level that was resistance into resistance again. Now, why do we sell off of resistance levels? Well, sometimes some of the people, you can see that here, sold off. Um, some of the people who want to sell start to get nervous. They're afraid they're going to get undercut. They know that the buyers are going to go to whoever is willing to sell at the lowest price. So they start undercutting each other. So someone might reduce their price from 237 to 236 and a half. Someone that sells sees that and they're like, I don't want to miss out. I'm going to go to 236, so forth and so on. And it starts a snowball effect. All right, let's just go through the big three real quick here. NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA's moving ahead. Now, this broke this resistance. When we get above a resistance level, we say it's a breakout. It's not just symbolic. It tells us something. It tells us that the traders and investors who created the resistance with their sell orders have left the market. They've canceled or they've finished, but either way, they're out of the way. So when you take a lot of supply or sell orders out of a market, guess what? The buyers are forced to pay higher prices if they want to acquire shares, and that forces us into an uptrend. Microsoft looks pretty, actually, kind of weird. Been trending lower, looks sideways this morning. Apple, Apple's going sideways as well. That's kind of interesting. It's almost like Nvidia is carrying the entire sector. All right, next up, we're going to look at healthcare, which is XLV. Nice reversal here. Kind of flat this morning, though. All right, I'm going to go to financials. Ooh, okay. Here's where I would look for some trading ideas because this looks overbought. Okay, here's our what we call the ascending triangle pattern. Most technical analysts don't really know what the hell they're doing. They look at the patterns and they treat them like they're like tea leaves or astrology or whatever. But it's in graphical illustrations of psychology. So you got your sellers were hanging out around here 45, 50. They were okay to chill back and wait for the buyers to come to them. But as time is going by, the buyers are getting more aggressive. They're willing to pay higher prices. And that causes this line to be ascending. So patient sellers, aggressive buyers sets the stage for a move up. But we're pretty overbought. Now we can look, just like you can look at the sectors, we can look at the stocks that are within the sectors to see which stocks are overbought, which we can watch for reversals. I suspect it's JP Morgan. Yeah, so JP Morgan. All right, so JP Morgan, I think this would be a good trading idea to look for a reversal here. Okay, because it's overbought and it's at a former peak. And as we talked about, when we get to former peaks, we tend to run into resistance and we tend to sell off. It's really overstretched. Now, the key is you don't get into your trade until it starts to go your way. I mean, it could keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. It's just set up for a reversal. It means there's a good chance it reverses. It's not a guarantee. So, yeah. So I'd put this is going to be on my trade radar for a potential trade, for a potential reversal here. All right, just go through the other sectors real quick here. Consumer discretionary kind of trending just a little bit lower. Industrials. Ooh, look at this. This is another sector that looks overbought. So we could be looking for potential reversal in industrials as well. So we could just go take a quick look at the industrial sector. All right, so GE, Caterpillar, Uber, RTX. I don't think we really have time to go through all of these, but I mean, you get the idea. If something is overbought, that draws sellers into the market because they're going to be expecting a reversal. And yeah, so here's a potential trading idea. The UNP, right? It's a big part of this sector. If the sector reverses, that's going to put pressure on this stock. These, all the stocks in the same sectors kind of tend to, in some ways, influence each other to different degrees. So here we have an example of what was resistance turned into support. And sometimes what was support can turn into resistance. And this is another way that buyer's remorse is manifested. People buy when the price goes lower. They say, if it gets back to my price and I can get out of break even, I'm going to. So if you have enough remorseful buyers placing sell orders at the level that was support, it can make it become resistance. And this is what we saw before resistance becomes support. All right, let me just go through these other guys. Energy. See what's going on over there. Kind of another, you can see another example here running into resistance at a former peak. Kind of interesting that the yield curve has uninverted, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it. Not much going on in staples, utilities, not much going on. All right, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good day, and I will see you all here tomorrow morning.